Hello. Hello. Come on now. My hands are nervous, my hands are shaking, I'm a little nervous, but we're going to get past that really quickly. The fireball is starting to kick in, so it's okay. I will warn you now that I am going to be using the words authentic, transparent, genuine, relevant, so if anyone's playing the drinking game at home, go ahead and get your shot glasses ready. All right, like I'm guilty as charged. All right, I'm going to start. This is more for me to calm my nerves than it is for you, but this is a little bit about my world. My kids at home, shout out. Family, yay, I never see them, but there they are. And this is what life is really like, a little Gangnam Style on the bed. I don't make my bed. Shh. All right, next. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about me real quick, just to put things in context. I've been a recruiter for 18 years. Started in the agency, went in-house, worked for a lot of tech companies over the years. A couple years ago, I started my own company around social recruiting and training and all that. About 18 months ago, I got into employer branding, kind of went in cold. Zappos was like, you want to come do this for us? And I said, I've never done that, but I kind of think it'd be fun. And they're like, cool, let's do it. So we did. I worked there for about a year and then worked at with TripAdvisor for about a year as my next big client. And I just announced 2 days ago that I'm now with Greenhouse. How many people here have heard of Greenhouse? Woo woo! All right, so that's kind of me in a nutshell. And now we'll talk about all this good stuff. All right, so I've been a sourcer forever. I've always sourced my own candidates. It's what I love to do. But it's kind of labor intensive. It's very one-to-one, and it's not something that's super scalable, right? And it's definitely an important function, but the other side of that coin is equally important, and that's, of course, employer branding, and that's why we're all here today. And that's kind of like casting a net. So it's kind of happening out there in the background while we're busy sourcing and doing phone interviews and meeting with hiring managers and tracking in our ATS and all those fun things that we have to do as recruiters. So this is a beautiful thing. We have this branding that's happening, and the fish are swimming to us, right? Love that. A strong employer brand is, how many people here are old enough to remember Super Friends and Aquaman? Yeah, it's like that magical net, and all the fish would like do-do-do-do, and they all swim into the net, you know. That's what a strong employer brand does. It basically attracts more people to come. It kind of is like a magnet for good talent if you have a really strong brand. And there's a number of obvious advantages to having a strong employer brand. You've heard many of those today. I'm not going to rehash that. An added bonus, of course, is for the sourcers. It's much easier to reel in that fish if you have a strong employer brand. It's much easier to close the deal, right? Because they want to come work with you. They've heard of you. They're excited, all that good stuff. All right, enough with the fishing and dating analogies. I'm done with that. Employer branding, recruiting is like dating. We've all heard that. Yes, I've written that blog post myself, too. All right, so 83% of talent acquisition, recruiting, HR leaders agree that employer brand has a significant impact on your ability to hire, right? It can either be a competitive advantage, it can be a competitive disadvantage. Actually, I'm not done with the fishing analogies, I lied. Anyway, but it's really important, we all know this. A couple little stats. It obviously can lower cost, oh, my check mark is missing. It lowers cost per hire by 50%. It makes people stick around longer because they're a better quality hire. They already kind of understand the culture before they come in. And 2 out of 3 will actually accept a lower salary, yay, if you do have a stronger employer brand. So again, easier to close those deals. All right, we're back to fish, I lied. So what if your brand isn't strong, right? What if you have a negative or not very positive employer brand? Or what if you're sort of unknown, right? I'm working now with a startup and a B2B. A lot of people in our space know them, but the people we're wanting to attract, engineers and salespeople, they may not know us. That's a challenge. That's a specific obstacle to overcome. What if you're attracting the wrong talent, right? That happens all the time too, right? We don't want that. What if you have no idea, no clue what the heck you're doing, right? That's a butterfly net, by the way, right? And we've all been there, right? Don't feel bad. 50% of all recruiters have no idea what their employer brand is. And they're the people talking to candidates on the front lines all day, every day. It's a scary thought. So you're not alone. It's OK. Today, what I'm going to hopefully do is help those of you that don't really have a good idea where to start. It feels overwhelming. My dad used to say all the time, and as a kid, I would roll my eyes. He's like, you got to do that science fair project. It's due in 2 months. You should take a little bite at a time. And I would always wait till the night before and like start it, right? But hopefully what I'm going to share with you today will help you take this big, big task, break it down into bite-sized pieces. I didn't say snackable in the back. I didn't say snackable, but little bite-sized pieces that you can then decide, do you want to take some of this and implement it? Do you want to try to tackle all of it? My advice to you is kind of juggle one ball, maybe 2 at a time before you add a third and a fourth, right? So just start small. Taking baby steps is better than just being frozen, that analysis paralysis that we often feel. So hopefully this will help you. So what is employer brand? We all know what employer brand is. I'm going to give you my perspective on employer brand for what it's worth. We hear all these kind of buzzwords. There it is, guys. Authenticity, drink, culture, transparency, all these fun words, right? But if you ask me, it boils down to 4 main things. It's your EVP, right? It's what you tell the world you are as an employer. That's part of it. It's your company culture. Duh, that goes without saying, right? It's what it's like to work there. Your company's values, the people that work there, the work that's being done, the office environment, the events. It's the kind of the fiber that holds everything together. It's your people. It's not just your people. It's the people that work for your company, the people that used to work for your company, your clients that work with your employees. It's all the people that engage with you, around you, or talking about you. People are a big component of this, and there's a human element to it that's really important, and I think that's where I'm going to bring that up in a little bit, and that's really important, the people piece. And then, of course, candidate experience. Stacy never speaks on stage without talking about candidate experience. It's just a given. Yes, I just refer to myself in the third person. Okay, that's employer brand to me. So employer brand, of course, it tells a story. Ready? Get your fireball shots ready. A relevant, transparent story of what it's really, really like to work at your company. And I'm not saying that this is sugarcoating. This is not bait and switch. This is not, oh, everything's sunshine and rainbows and unicorns every day. It's just being real. It's peeling back that curtain and letting people see what it's really like to work at your company. What makes you different? What makes you unique, right? Not just the same old, same old. So you want to highlight those differentiators rather than simply, talking about how great it is and it's so fun, fun, fun all the time. That's not necessarily employer branding. So I say this, I've said this before, but I think candidates can smell BS a mile away. And they would much rather have Joe in IT with his Dilbert cartoon on the wall with his 3-day-old Starbucks cup talking on an iPhone video than some slick produced marketing video by your CEO in a fancy boardroom with the mahogany and, somebody quote, throw out a little Anchorman quote here. Anyway, but you know what I'm saying. They want it real because they can tell what's real and they can tell what's mass-produced, kind of slick, fancy. Somebody's paid to do this. So again, the foosball's a little played out, the ping pong's a little played out. We have beer kegs on Friday, I get it. But it's all part of the total story. Just be real and highlight your people, get them telling their stories, and peel back that curtain. Because ultimately, the earlier in the process people understand what your culture is like, you're going to save everybody a lot of time and energy in the long run, right? A lot of people don't know what the culture's like until after they start, or 3 months after they start. Or maybe they don't know until onboarding and they're like, oh, this isn't what I signed up for. Or maybe it's during the in-person interview. You want to push that out even to before they apply. They're like, I kind of get what that culture's all about. It's not for me. Self-selection is okay in an employer brand process. So the earlier people understand your culture, the sooner they can decide if it's for them. You don't want to wait until they're further down that funnel, and all of a sudden you've got a recruiting nightmare on your hands. Whoop, have to go back. So where do we find all this great content to share? How does this all work? Where do I even start? Oh my gosh, this is the elephant and I don't even know where to take a bite. So that's what we're going to talk about right now. Here's your game plan. So if you're taking notes today or if you're live tweeting, I'm going to break it down into little steps. Again, you don't have to do all of these things. You may pick and choose a few that work for you, but this is going to give you an idea of kind of how you can break it down into those bite-sized pieces and make it work at your organization. So of course, the first thing you have to do is you have to do your homework, right? You have to understand your company, understand your people, understand what they value, what makes them tick, what are they happy about, what's not so great. You have to really understand your culture in order to evangelize it and push it out to the outside world. So the research piece is absolutely imperative. I'm in kind of the honeymoon phase with my new gig, and I'm just doing that. I'm going around and talking to people and trying to understand and visiting the sites. Get out there and really push yourself and be down where everyone is. Meet each team, right? Each team has its unique culture. Each office location has its own culture. Each division has its own culture. Really try to understand so you can kind of put all the pieces together. I mentioned yesterday in my meeting, I was like, I feel like I have the outline of the puzzle. I'm an old lady, I do puzzles sometimes. And I have all the like flat edge ones, but I need to put all the inside pieces together before I can really have it all gel. All right, ask questions, right? I already mentioned this. You want to ask questions. Maybe you do a survey. Maybe you do focus groups. Maybe you're reading, Glassdoor. Of course, you're doing that. I'm going to talk about that a little bit on the next slide. Maybe you're doing what I'm doing. I'm literally setting up back-to-back interviews with people around the company, and I'm asking them 5 or 6 standard questions. I'll tell you what the questions are if you want. It's not a trade secret, I guess. I'm asking them, why did you choose Greenhouse? Because there's a reason. They were interviewing with Googles and Twitters. They chose Greenhouse for a reason. What was that? Because that's important for me. That's something that would be a factor in my employer brand strategy, because there's a reason they picked us. Why do you choose to stay at Greenhouse, right? I say that too. Why? Because everyone has a choice. We're not all locked in. Some of the other questions I'm asking, what's the coolest project you've worked on since you got here? I'm asking them about the complete person. What do you do when you're not at work? Because that's cool too. I found skydivers. I found somebody who's a farmer on the side. I found someone who's a flamenco dancer, like all sorts of fun things that you would never know. But we are a complete person when we come to work, even though we're spending our 8 hours or 10 hours or whatever in the office every day. We bring that whole piece to us. If we're a bunch of adventure seekers working in a startup, that's part of the total picture. So don't be afraid to ask some of these. I think the way I phrased it was, do you have any secret superpowers, or any kind of awesome passions? That's what I want to know. And there's a few others too. I won't go into it too much right now. Social listening. What are people saying about your company? Whether they're employees, whether they're clients, whether they're former employees, whether they're candidates. People are talking about you online all day, every day. And I know it's really tempting to stick your head and be the ostrich and put your head in the hole in the ground and be like, la, 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 I don't want to think about this right now, right? But they're talking about you whether you're joining the conversation or not. And to the point that was made earlier, I would rather jump in and be a part of that conversation and help clear up misconceptions or clarify anything that's maybe it's slightly incorrect, or add my voice, my perspective to that conversation. Definitely look at Glassdoor, right? There's good, there's bad. This is opportunities for you to have a little introspection about your company and decide, wow, we really need to focus on fixing some of these things even before we shine a spotlight on our company, right? Maybe we're not ready for the spotlight. Maybe we need to start tackling some of these things and kind of more slowly roll out our employer brand. It all comes back to employee culture, employee engagement. It comes back to who you are as a company. So that's a big part of it. What are people saying, and identify that as areas for improvement or opportunity or strengths, right? There could be good things they're saying too, right? All right. You need to identify if your company has core values, what are they? Have they already been identified? Are they outdated? Do they need a little refresher, right? Companies change over time, especially ones that are in high growth mode. So maybe that has changed slightly, and that's inevitable, right? Maybe you develop a formal EVP. A lot of companies spend a lot of money to develop formal EVPs. If you don't have that kind of budget or time or resources, it's okay. Just say, hey, you know what? These core values, I'm seeing a pattern here in the conversations I'm having with my employees. And this is what we value as an employer. And you're going to push those out so that potential candidates can say, wow, those values really resonate with me. That's something that's really important to me as well. You need to establish the goals of your program, right? Anything worth doing is worth measuring, right? So if we don't have goals, how do you set up your goals? You look at your recruiting challenges. You look at who your competition is. You look at where those gaps are. Wow, we're taking a long time to hire. Oh, we're having a retention issue because people aren't actually a culture fit when they get on board. So you want to establish where are your challenges? What is it that you need? Oh, we need to hire more engineers. We need to hire more sales folks. Or we need more people in APAC. Okay, we need to develop some targeted campaigns aimed at those audiences, right? So this is something that you should absolutely do before you launch. Think about what the goals of your program are so that you can work toward those. We're not just doing employer branding because it's a buzzword right now, and we're doing it for employer branding's sake. So we really want to be focused in that. We want to do social training for our employees, right? Chris mentioned it a little while ago. Where's Chris? He said that don't tell people what your culture is. They don't want to hear it from the brand. They want to hear it from your employees. And if you have either your recruiters or ideally everyone in your company who's interested, give them social training so that they have the tools and the forum and the platform to be sharing their stories and what they really feel about the company. It may sound a little scary, like, what are they going to say? But they could be saying it anyway. So this way, give them some training, give them the knowledge they need. People trust other people more than they trust a brand. It's just a fact. So, and of course, I heard also somebody else mention that they shared it and then it goes out to their friends and their friends and their connections. This is much more likely to go viral than if it's just the brand careers page posting stuff all day. You don't want it to go out and then fall to the ground dead, right? You want it to go out and out and out and out and out. This is the best way to do that. All right, you've kind of done your homework. Hello. You've kind of done your homework. I shouldn't talk with my hands quite so much. And you kind of done your research. You know what your goals are. You have sort of an idea of what you're all about. Go ahead and start building out a roadmap. Don't build a PDF, build a Word doc. This is going to be something you're going to be changing in real time. This is a living, breathing document. Go out 3, 4, 5 months. Write it in pencil, like I said. This is not a time for ink. And you're going to update it all the time. I have one that I use. It's constantly it looks kind of like, whoa, what's going on here? But now kind of formulate a plan. This is where it really starts to come together. Take inventory. There are so many assets out there when it comes to content. What in the world are you going to tweet and push out on social all day? You have to take that inventory and say, okay, what are we going to talk about? Where can I find stuff to talk about? Oh my gosh, I have 3 things to tweet and I have a lifetime left to do it in. I'm out of stuff to talk about. That would be horrible, right? So we need to be thinking about that. I'm going to help you kind of see what that is. So here's the meh, right? This is the okay, these are the people that are kind of doing employer branding and they're pushing out, oh, we just got this award, or our PR is announcing we just formed a strategic partnership with this other company. Okay, that's kind of cool. I don't know that any candidates are going to be like, stop what I'm doing. I need to apply there right now, right? You have your corporate blog or your marketing blog, right? Earnings announcements. We made our Q4 numbers. All the employees are saying, yay, but candidates are like, okay, that's cool. Job postings are not social. They're definitely a talent attraction tool, but I wouldn't say that they're super compelling content when it comes to employer brand. Corporate social responsibility. I saw some survey results from Universum recently. I guess Richard's going to be speaking in a minute after me. And this is actually the least compelling data-wise, survey-wise with candidates. Oh, we did a walkathon. Oh, we did adopt a highway. It's cool, but it isn't going to make people stop and take action. And that's really what we want. We want to take them through that recruiting funnel from having brand awareness to being, okay, I would consider this company as a place I would work. Oh, this is an employer of choice. This is my top 3. To, oh my gosh, I'm going to go check out their careers page. Oh, I'm actually going to apply, right? What are we going to do to push them down through that funnel? Is Adopt a Highway going to really do it? I don't know. Sorry, I didn't mean to sound sarcastic. It's okay to mix it up and have it in there, and then company benefits. I see more often than not, we have medical, dental, matching 401k. Guess what? Tell me. So does everyone else, right? So is that a differentiator? No. We want to talk about, instead, the wow. And I'd left a wow off of here. I thought I changed it. I'm going to add it first because, again, using this survey data, Universum shared that the #1 thing that is most compelling to potential candidates, passive or active, is, any guesses? Any guesses? Oh, come on. Sorry? Development, what does that mean? What content is most compelling and interesting to potential candidates? It's okay. Culture, okay. What else? That's not the right answer, but it's up there. Yes, sir. You're on the right path. That's exactly it. Basically, what the work that's being done is by far the most compelling content. Why? They want to be challenged. They want to think, okay, am I going to grow my career? Am I going to be bored at work or interested? Am I going to learn new current technologies and forward-thinking things? Am I going to advance my career? Is my resume going to look better for making this decision? So if you're highlighting the work that your dev team is doing or your marketing team is doing or whatever team is doing, things that are innovative, that are forward-thinking, that are advanced, that are producing great results, shine a spotlight on the work being done. It is by far the most compelling content out there, and I totally don't even have it on the slide. So anyway, culture, day in the life, Your IT or tech department or engineering department probably has a blog that they keep. This would be good content to share with tech folks. Employee spotlights, unique perks, right? Not just standard perks. Unique perks. Do you have a really cool paternal leave policy? Do you have a really cool, Zappos had this $50 employee referral, or employee bonus rather. I talked about it last year at Glassdoor, and if once a month you have a $50 bonus to give to one of your coworkers, like, you know what? You were so helpful on that project. You really made the difference. I'm talking to this gentleman here, and here I'm going to give you my $50 bonus this month out of everyone else in the company. It's only $50, but tell me that doesn't, like that little, like, who's me? Like, oh, I'll take it. Wow, I was the one that you picked. Like, it's a feel good, right? So anyway, I think that that's a cool thing. So if you have any kind of unique perks or benefits, share those. If you don't have them, maybe come up with a few. Like, it'll help the employee engagement and the company culture. Candid photos that look real. Your company's in the news doing cool stuff. Ask people questions. Social is all about engagement and two-way conversation. Engagement, I think that one can be a drinking game now too. But get those two-way conversations going. I have so many examples of times that things have really blown up and really been really cool, gone almost viral on social, simply because I asked a question. And a question begs an answer, and it drives conversation. So if you're not asking questions, try it. Career tips. This is something that's really interesting to active job seekers, passive job seekers, your current employees. Everyone wants to hear really good career advice, so that's something that can kind of be a catch-all, not just for active job seekers. You can do job search tips and interview tips and resume tips too. Throw in a little humor now and then. I'm not saying you have to do all memes all the time, but some of the best stuff I've shared has been kind of funny, and it kind of provides some levity. Fridays are good for that stuff. Maybe some quotes. I mean, I can tell Matt Charney's back there rolling his eyes about sharing motivational quotes, Eleanor Roosevelt. But sometimes a little quote does well, and it's motivational, and there's a time and a place. All right, my friend Sarah Evans stood up on stage a couple years ago and said this, and it resonated with me so much I kind of want to get a tattoo of it somewhere on my body. But great content makes people want to care, share, or swear. Think about it. Maybe it's like, whoa, damn, or maybe it's like, holy, whatever. But if they care enough to take action on it, they're going to like it, they're going to retweet it, they're going to share it, they're going to comment on it, they're going to call you out. Whatever it is, if they're going to take action on it, that's good content. So you need to get like a little bracelet that says, what would Sarah Evans do? And say, okay, I'm going to post this now, and is this going to be something that people are going to be like, ho-hum, and scroll past? Or is this going to be something that people are going to actually sit up and be like, wow, that's so cool. Like, I didn't know your company did that. Da, da. I mean, how many people had that moment this morning with Zillow and CEO, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's a great company. Like, I was taken aback, and I was like, this is an amazing company. I want to work with those guys, right? So if that makes people feel something, that's good. And so all those things that were being shared this morning are perfect examples, Spencer. So, all right. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start getting into some of the tactical. This is the checklist that you want to go through. Again, you don't have to check them all, but maybe you check a few. What's in a name? You need to brand yourself for your career's presence. I am not going to call out, there's a lot of Acme Jobs is their handle. That's okay. There's Acme Careers. I see a lot of Life at Acme. These are all fine and well and good, and people see it and they immediately know what it's all about. And there's a positive to that. But also, maybe we can do a little bit better. Maybe we can think like a marketer. And try to really think of something more creative. We did Inside Zappos simply because we knew we were going to be launching the Zappos Insider program. And so this is what it's like inside of Zappos, and we kind of were showing them what it was like. Go TripAdvisor. We picked that name because of the travel component. Hey, I have multiple offers. Which one should I go? Go TripAdvisor. Or the whole, you want to think about what your employees are going to, what's going to resonate with your current employees as well. Maybe more on a hashtag side, but go TripAdvisor, like go us, we rock. So be thinking about different names that you can come up, a name that would work for you, that would represent your brand and be memorable. And maybe there's less of a stigma of following an Inside Zappos or a Go TripAdvisor than there is a careers presence, and all their friends are going to see they're following that on Facebook or Twitter. It's a little bit more, less obvious, I guess. You want a consistent hashtag, right? This is something that employees can grab onto, that candidates can grab onto, or potential candidates. It's something that you can use for content curation. You can go out and say, oh, let's search for everyone talking about us. about life at our company, whatever it is, use that hashtag, do a search. You've got all this content on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, right? You want to establish pillars of content, your pillars, right? These are the 4 or 5 things we're going to talk about consistently. Weave in some stuff that's interesting to passive candidates as well. At TripAdvisor, travel was one of ours because everyone who worked at our company liked travel. And you don't have to be an active job seeker to want to talk and talk about travel. So try to weave in a little bit for the passive audience. Again, measure things, recruiter adoption, what's doing well, what platforms work well, what time of day works well, where should we be spending more time, energy, or budget? You need to come up with a content curation strategy, right? I was mentioning this a little while ago. You need to store your acorns for the winter. You don't want to be finding yourself every day like, what am I going to tweet about? Good enough. I'm so busy. That's not good. You want to kind of already have all these cool things sort of built out so that you're ready. It's not that hard. You can use Pinterest, or you can use a Dropbox folder somewhere. It doesn't have to be a big, fancy tool. Who's going to run the accounts? We at TripAdvisor and Zappos, every week a different recruiter ran the accounts, came up with all the content, did all the engagement. Our recruiters are on the front lines anyway. We trust them anyway to be talking to people every day. Why not trust them on social? So we did, and it worked great. So one week, one person, the next week, the next week. Develop a content calendar. This is a very boiled down, pretty version that my husband, who's a UI, UX geek, built for me. Obviously, it would be a little bit more robust than this. But basically, you want to know on what days you're going to post where. Easy to build. Just use an Excel spreadsheet. Most people do. Set up a blog. You want to get those stories out there. You can only say so much in 140 characters. So maybe you start a blog. Maybe we published on Publisher for a little while until we had our blog set up or what have you. Yeah, get the stories out there. This one was her very first blog, but it was their very first blog post. No one dreams of being a recruiter when they grow up. Did anyone here dream of being a recruiter? I'll eat my hat if anyone raises their hand. No one dreams of being a recruiter. Anyway, it made it like the top 10 most shared recruiter posts of the week. And she'd never blogged before. It was awesome, so good stuff. Get your employees blogging or interviewing your employees and doing spotlights and put that content on your blog. Again, what work are they doing? Those interview questions that I'm asking to understand the culture, I'm saving all that because that's great content later. You need an engaging careers page. If your careers page is very like ho-hum and generic, and we've all seen it, maybe it's time to take a look at it. Maybe you, at Zappos, we built in a people slider. So if you're interviewing with finance, you already know 12 people in finance. You click, you see their face, their title, their social links, a few questions. You kind of know the interview team even before you apply. Again, you're pushing that stuff out to the very beginning of the process. Think about job postings. This is the days of these heavy text-driven postings are over. Everything's mobile now. Who wants to read a big block of text on a mobile phone, right? Or even on a laptop. Who wants to read that? So think about ways to integrate pictures, video. Maybe you do 20-second interview with this person would be your boss. There are tools that do this. This person would be your coworker. 20-second interview. This other person would be your coworker. Again, pushing out that stuff that they wouldn't find out to the in-person interview all the way out to before they even apply. How cool is that? It's not that hard. There are tools that do it. You can probably, jerry-rig it together, MacGyver style, with some bubble gum and a paper clip. You could probably make it work. All right, Glassdoor. We're at Glassdoor, but this slide is always part of my conversation. You need to have a 3-pronged approach to Glassdoor. You need to make sure your content is great and it's engaging and it's telling a good story. You need to be sharing status updates. Keep it dynamic and fresh. You need to have a response strategy, right? I love the fact that everybody is talking about how they respond to every review by employees and by candidates. It's the best practice. It's a given. We've got to be doing it. And then you also need an engagement strategy. What are you doing to get your employees sharing their feedback so you don't just have the naysayers and the cheerleaders, all that middle ground. And same thing with candidates. What are you doing to get candidates to share their feedback about the interview? This is all important, and there's really cool tips and tricks I wish I could share, but I have 1 minute left. And last but not least, candidate experience. I have to go there. This is my baby. I believe in it wholeheartedly. I think it's what makes the difference between a great recruiter and an average recruiter, a great company and an average company. There's no point in having a fabulous employer brand campaign, strategy, program, and then when people actually go to apply or interview, you treat them like a number. We're not selling cars. This is not numbers game. We're dealing with real people, real lives, their spouses, wives, their kids, where are they going to go to school, their hopes and their, I mean, is there anything that's more soul-crushing than going into the weekend after you interviewed and not hearing anything? That's the longest 2 days of your life until Monday when you can finally email and ask, right? So we need to make sure that we're having a really great candidate experience, treating people as a human, that human element that I talked about before. So be mindful, look at that. If you have not applied for your own company lately, do it. Do it as a secret shopper and see how your recruiters are responding. Do it on a mobile phone. I bet that's a really eye-opening experience. So anyway, that's it for me. Do you guys have any questions? Or I will do it at the end. I lied. Sorry.